Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Coronado, and tonight on this very special night, World Cup night, I'm joined by my gang, Elias Grigoriadis and Hattie Rafael. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
We're great. We're great. It never misses. Whenever you say Elias, I pop up on the screen,
That's
and you
it.
say Hadi,
That's
that Elias pop up on the
everything
screen.
about this
You
is
think this is an
backwards.
All the
accident?
time.
You think this
All
is
the
an
time.
accident? No.
And
This is
guess
sabotage.
and guess who has
Keep
the
talking shit,
controls to
Andy.
this? Yeah.
This is
Yo,
sabotage.
come on,
Exactly.
Elias. Jesus. Anyway, so how are you gentlemen doing? How's your weekend? How's a few soccer games here and there, right? Not important, just maybe some. What are we talking about, guys?
I
It's the
love this.
World Cup.
It's oh
It's
my
the
god.
World Cup. It's
There's
it's
nothing like it, man.
it's insane.
And
Everybody,
the fact that it's expanded and we get more games, it's
yeah,
only beneficial. And everyone that
everywhere
was
you turn,
complaining,
yeah,
everyone's like, "Oh, why is this team and why is that team and why is this?" Cape Verde tied Spain. Egypt outplayed Belgium for a good chunk of the game and then drew. Saudi Arabia is beating Uruguay. Qatar tied Swiss. Like all these teams are like, oh, why are they here? Man, nah. No, they showed up. They're here to play, and we're getting some of the best soccer we've seen in a long time,
yeah.
and we're getting it 3 or 4 times a day. I'm doing fantastic, Andy.
There, there are so many storylines developing by the games, by the hour. It seems like this morning we find out that one of the coaches is fired after one game. What are we even talking about right now? It's crazy. There's also, the hydration breaks. Everybody's talking about that. There's the
You mean
the
the
crazy
commercial breaks, right? That's what you mean.
the hydration because they need hydration.
No,
Woke
no, commercial
nonsense,
breaks.
man.
Dude, okay, I'll be
Nonsense.
very honest. Okay, so I watch a lot of football, American football, NFL, and what really got to
What?
me,
I never heard about that
what
sport.
really got to me. So, Hadi, American football is a ball
It's like
that you
rugby,
and
but with
yeah,
pads.
Ah,
and men
okay.
hit each other. They don't flop at
Rugby
the
for
slightest
sissies then.
touch. So, anyways, one of the things that stood out to me when I was watching one of the World Cup games was the introduction to players because I've never seen this in any other soccer game. Maybe I haven't seen enough, but the introduction where the players like, hey, my name is I don't know Alex White or something, and he does this thing like that, holds his shirt, and I was like, that is such an American thing to do because in American football, the players they get a little 2 second clip where they're like, yeah, like or
That's because
I went.
everyone's wearing a helmet. You don't know what they look like. They make some kind of
No, but
facial
it just
recognition.
made me laugh. I remember usually the introduction of the squad is so simple. They just show their pictures, the formation, and now we move. But anyways, it was just a tiny detail that made me realize how Americanized this World Cup can get. But speaking of the World Cup, it's time to get right to it, guys. So we're gonna talk about Canada's first game against Bosnia. Okay, now we were lucky because we had one of us actually was able to be there, Hadi, right? You were able to be in Toronto. You made the trip. You sent us a few videos, and if you guys want to see it, go ahead into our the ball is round account on Instagram, and you can go ahead and check that out. But Hadi, tell us a little bit. What did the air smell like? What were the vibes when you got there?
Oh man. Honestly, it was just amazing. Just being part of the march at first. From the park to the stadium. Surrounded by hundreds of people wearing red. Cracking fumigène like smoke bombs
Yeah.
and singing and chanting. Uh, you know, very special moment. And you arrive at the stadium, you go inside the stadium. Of course, it's a FIFA World Cup, right? You have so many things. You look at the FIFA store, you buy some merch, you do whatever you have to do, and then you go into the stands and you sit there, and the game starts. And first, no, the national teams are there, and the national anthem is sang by Alanis Morissette, and she sings it in the in French and English, which like was amazing. And we're all chanting together, and I was with the Voyageurs, and we were loud, we were crazy. It was unbelievable, honestly unbelievable. And we're going to talk about the result. Yes, the result is important for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
what's staying with me personally is just that feeling. The feeling that you have going into a stadium and being one with all those supporters singing, national anthems, roaring, the crowd roaring, making sure that you live every moment of that game, every second of that game like it was your last. And it was unbelievable, unbelievable. And what I looked at all the voyageurs, and you had people from all different backgrounds. And this is what Canada is, right? And
Mhm.
the great Ruud Gullit said it. I don't know if you guys watched it on social media. Ruud Gullit was a great Holland player that said that he loved what Canada was because all the players that he saw was from different origins, and but they were playing as one. And for him, Canada was exactly that. Different people coming from different parts of the world, but creating a new entity, which is Canada. And honestly, I felt it. I felt it so much being there. And at the same time, I realized my childhood dream. That was my dream growing up, being at the World Cup. But even better, being at the World Cup and cheering for your own country on the biggest stage of all. Like, can't get better than that. It just
Yeah. I can only imagine, and we actually lived through you, Hadi, this World Cup experience. But also, we watched it from TV, right? And in my case, I was busy doing other things, but it doesn't matter because everywhere you turn, everywhere you see, it's literally people watching a game, talking about it. It is literally the thing right now. So we're having fun covering it. Elias, what were you feeling like before the game? How excited were you about the whole thing? Did it at any point kick in that holy smokes, it's here. It's the World Cup.
I think around the national anthem, I was like, oh my god, like it's time. But I wasn't enjoy. I was just horribly nervous the entire time because when you think about it, this is give or take a decade of hype and build up and expectations that's all culminating to in what is a tournament, but it's all focused on the first game, right? Because if you go out there, you lose 3-0, then
the
everything
hype is
falls to
gone.
its face. Exactly, right? So, regardless of how good the actual tournament is, which has been fantastic so far, the hype for Canada takes a serious hit, especially when you have Mexico that wins and then you have the USA that puts four past Paraguay. Paraguay, yeah, and that's a different story. It's terrible. Robbie says, "Good night, good evening, gentlemen and Elias." Oh, I'm not a gentleman. Okay.
Chale.
Yeah, we got beef. Okay, this guy. Anyway, but besides that, it was terribly nervous because there was so much riding on this game, and you could also tell, by the way that the players started off the game, that it was affecting them too.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that of how much weight this first game carried, not just for Canada, every country that is playing their first game. You understand that if it's a loss or a win, just the reaction of the players after the game kind of makes you realize, holy smokes, how important the first game is. Even though some
Yep.
people might want to focus more on the second or third game, at the end of the day, the first game is probably one of the more crucial because that's when you know how much pressure there is going to be on the second and third game. So let's go ahead and talk about that first game, Canada versus Bosnia. Let's go ahead and look at the lineup. So at goalie, we had Maxime Crépeau. And the right back, Alistair Johnston, Luc de Fougerolles, and Derek Cornelius in the center back position. Larea in the left back. Tajon Buchanan on the right middle. Ismail Kone, Steven Ostakio's middle. And Liam Miller as a left middle. And I will not try to say his name, Oluwasei, if I said it right.
There you go.
And Jonathan David as the 2-9. So when you guys look at that lineup, I know we had the side chat where you guys were going a little bit crazy with some of the selection. So, Hadi, I'll start with you. What were there any surprises? Is that what you were expecting? Were you surprised at all by that lineup?
Honestly, yeah, I was surprised. Nobody was expecting Jesse March to not start Kyle Laren, right? And we talked about it a lot here on the Ball is Round, and Elias is someone that really didn't want to see Laren on the starting 11, and my take was you have to put experience there, but at the same time, it's also good to mix it up a bit. And I was surprised to see Tani Oluwashei up front with Jonathan David. But at the same time, I wasn't surprised as being, why did he do that? No, I was happy he did that because, it was clearly not working as a starter for Kyle Larin. And why not? And happy that he had the balls to do that because it's not easy to come and say to your veteran, hey, you're not going to start today. And you know what? That was, I think, the most surprising thing that I've seen. The rest was classical Jesse Marsh.
Guys, what do you think of this
Yeah,
starting
exactly
lineup?
the same, right? We all could have predicted down to a T what the starting 11 would have been. So Daniel O'Shea getting the start above Kyle Larin. I mean, again, I've spoken about how much I think Promise David deserves to be in there. We'll get into his involvement in a bit, but Daniel O'Shea was nowhere near my radar. I did not expect him to get the call for the starting 11, and I think the moment got to him a little bit. But besides that, the 10 other players were pretty much set in stone at this point with injuries and or fitness coming into play.
So let's talk about the actual game, okay? Because it was there was a lot of a lot of back and forth. It was a very good game, but we saw that at the 21st minute, Bosnia scores first, right? Kind of early in the game. How are we feeling when we see that? The first score? Are we like, oh God, here we go again? Or did you guys think they got lucky? Canada's better than this. Elias, I'll start with you. After the first goal, how are you feeling?
I've spoken at length about how much I don't think this team is well suited to break down a low block, especially an organized one like Bosnia. And so the first goal, yeah, you could call it the worst case scenario because you're losing, and the first goal you concede on home turf and all that stuff, but more from a psychological perspective. Conceding that first goal, now realizing that Bosnia is probably just going to sit in front of their penalty area and try and hit back on the counter for the next 70 minutes is very demoralizing. And you could tell that those instances after the goal, Canada was almost like deflated because then they had to realize what was ahead of them and that it's not going to be an easy moment. And so I don't think they responded well either. But I, I think they're also aware of how difficult certain phases of play are. This is a team based and built on pace and power. And the only way, not the only way, but the main way that that thrives is in open play. So a game like Switzerland, if you look forward, that could be fine. But a game like this, where you have this organized and well-drilled Bosnian team that has not lost in 8 games, that's extremely daunting, and it's very easy to drop your shoulders. And I think they did.
I think yeah. I also had the moment I saw that I said, "Oh my God, there's a mountain to climb." Because as you mentioned, Bosnia is a very very well disciplined team, but there was still a long way to go in the game. How did you feel at that point? Because there is, like I mentioned, there's a long way to go in the game, but it still sucks to be down 1-0 so early.
Yeah, it was very disappointing to be down 1-0. And at the same time, we said it here on the ball is round, and we said it quite a few times that set pieces are the Achilles heel of the Canadian national team. And at the same time, it's the strength of the Bosnian team. And that's exactly what happened. Corner, goal. As simple as that. So yeah, it was super disappointing, but at the same time, and there's something that we have a tendency to forget, like the importance of the home crowd. The home crowd really carries your team in moments like this. So, yes, if we were playing in any other country in the world, I would have said, you know what, I'm worried. But at the same time, I'm not going to say I wasn't worried. I was a bit worried, but at the same time, I was still hopeful because of the crowd. Honestly, I don't know how it felt on TV. Maybe because I was in the middle of the Voyageurs, but honestly, the cheering never stopped, never stopped. And at one point I just made sure not to scream anymore, just to hear the stadium. And I heard the stadium like really roaring and pushing the players throughout the game, and that's, I think, very very important. So at that time I was like, okay, with that kind of support, maybe we're not going to win the game, but I'm pretty sure we're going to score at least once. And that's why I wasn't worried that as long as the second wasn't gonna go in, I wasn't. I was pretty sure we were gonna score a goal.
And at the 79th minute, the sub Kyle Larin, as you guys talked about, ties it up. I know, as I mentioned, my thoughts when if we don't Canada went down 1-0, I was panicking. I said, "Oh boy, now we have a mountain to climb." But when I saw that Canada scored that equalizing goal, again I said there's a lot of time left in the game, but at the same time I said, Whew. I said, okay, we can only go up from here, right? Canada can only score a few more goals, hopefully. Maybe the momentum, as you mentioned, the crowd has a lot of work to do there. Has a lot of with the support, definitely helps the team. How do what would you think? Well, you were at the stadium, right? And you said you never really stopped, hoping or seeing the hope there. But internally, when you see that tying goal, what did you think?
Oh man, I I lost it honestly. Like I really lost it. Like we were all like grabbing each other. I had beer all around my clothes, and we were like, I was like really like giving like high fives to people I never met. It was amazing. It was honestly, it was something
That's
unbelievable. But at the
awesome.
same time, again, talking about that the crowd, the home crowd, you're like, it's impossible. Like you have the feeling that it's impossible that we lose, and at the same time, don't forget, like if you look at the underlying numbers and the stats altogether, Canada really dominated that game in every aspect of the way. Yes, of course, there were some very scary chances for Bosnia, and we'll talk about that a bit later with Maxime Crépeau doing what Crépeau does. Uh, but at the same time, we were more close of a 2-1 for Canada than a 2-1 for Bosnia most of the game.
Yep.
And I was scoring at the 79th minute. For me, it's going to be 10 minutes of hell for Bosnia. And that's exactly what happened. It was 10 minutes of hell for Bosnia. Now, the thing is, unfortunately, we don't know how to finish our chances. And that's something that, of course, Jesse Marsh is going to have to address.
And I want to speak about that because to me, I continue being critical of Jesse Marsh because I understand that he says all the right things, but it always feels like we're comparing Jesse Marsh to Mauro Pochettino or other coaches in around the world. And obviously, he looks like the good guy right now. But when we're seeing his preparation, the tactics that he's putting out there, are you guys feeling encouraged, or are you guys feeling, do you guys still believe in Jesse March's being the guy to lead this team?
Well, like Mauricio Pochettino is a different position, right? The United States are more established. And they also have their own problems right now. But I haven't shied away from the fact that I don't love Jesse Marsh's approach to the team. I understand that given the squad that you have, you can't play the same way that Spain does. You can't play the same way. Like you have to find your own identity, right? And the pace and power does suit the majority of the players in the team. But I don't love the 4-4-2. And I think that we saw the worst of it against Bosnia, especially at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half when I'll admit it, I started to doubt. I started to feel really bad about Canada's chances because not again finishing notwithstanding, creating the chances was like pulling teeth. And there was this beautiful bit of play where I think it was Jonathan David that played in Richie Larea, and then Shad Kolasinac clears it off the line. And I'm like, it's one of those moments where you're like, that was it. And that might be the only set of goal to get for the rest of the game. And I'm going to spend the rest of the game with my head in my hands. And that didn't end up being the case. But this is the kind of football, this is the kind of vibe I'm getting from this brand of football, where it doesn't so much feel like an overwhelming wave after wave of pressure from a team that is physically and athletically proficient. It feels more like I have to keep the ball until we could accelerate and make it sure it's a sure thing. But you don't have the people for that. So when you have Steven Eustachio and Ismael Kone playing as a double pivot when they should be playing as a pair in front of a six, all of a sudden you
Like
can't get the
as a
best out of
diamond.
them. Either it's a diamond or even as a triangle with someone behind them. Like I think Kone and Eustachio had decent, solid games. I think that they did a good job retrieving the ball, driving the ball forward. But even at that, they didn't play as well as they should have and as well as they could have
I think
They can
Eustachio had
only
a horrible game.
but they
Eustachio
can
had a
only do
horrible game.
so much in this system. Steve Eustachio, who let's face it, is not necessarily the workhorse that he was during the 2022 World Cup, where he was this incredible, well-rounded box-to-box midfielder. He's now settled into a more of a metronomic role. He's not as dynamic as he was last World Cup. So he needs someone to kind of offset that lack of athleticism. And there isn't anyone on the field right now because they're alone in the middle of the park. So
And
either
I,
you have to capitulate one of the flanks by having Buchanan or Liam Miller tuck inside, but then again it creates all these other annoying problems. So my biggest problem right now is that when you can't just run at people, you don't have any other options. At least not in this system that I'm seeing right now.
And how do you, with that in the same page, do you think that Jesse March, I talked to you guys on the side chat. I was like, I'm a little bit more concerned about the players that were not used during the game. You talk about maybe profiles that needed better matching up with each other. Did you think that Jesse March made the right decisions throughout the game, the right adaptations to make sure to put his team in a position to win this game, or at least be competitive against a very good Bosnian team?
honestly, like I agree with whatever Elias said about the fact that the midfield is not really present because they're not being able to show any creativity because of the 4-4-2 flat. Completely agree with that. But when you look at the game and the way it happened, all the substitutions of Jesse March played a big role in Canada equalizing against Bosnia. So if you look at Jacob Schaffelberg was great coming in as a left back, because Alistair Johnson had a yellow, so that was very important. You had Richie that went on the right, so that was great. Then you had Ali Ahmed that was in the build-up of that goal, very important also. You have Promise David, pretty sure you were going to talk about it, Elias, but the fact that, the call that he made to just create a triangle with Kyle Aaron is super important. Dropping off and then creating that triangle with Kyle Aaron was very important on the goal. So when you look at the substitutions and the way Jesse March handled himself with all the options that he had available, he made all the right choices. Where I agree with Elias, sometimes maybe switching from a 4-4-2 flat to a 4-4-2 diamond, or making sure that the two wingers go more in the middle to create to let the two fullbacks do some overlaps, just mixing it up a bit tactically. I think that should be very important, because at the same time you're not utilizing Steven Eustachio to the best of his abilities, and you're not utilizing Ishmael Kone to the best of his abilities. What's the best of the ability of Ishmael Kone? He needs to carry the ball forward. And in that scheme, in that tactical scheme, he's not able to do so, because if he does so and he loses the ball, it's directly a counterattack, and most of the time a goal, or a very
That did happen, and they should have scored,
and that did happen.
and they missed the net.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so at one point, I think that still Jesse March did the right calls with his substitutions. We can't, in my opinion, I don't see anything that he could have done better than what he did during the game. It's before the game that he needs to adjust.
So
And Robbie said it right. He's not 100% a tactical manager, but there's one thing that I'll give Jesse Marsh credit for. It's his game management is very strong. His adjustments that you make in the middle of the game, he's very good. He listens to his gut, which is one thing that I find is so lacking from modern day coaches, that they never listen to their gut. They always want to be 1,000,000% sure before they make a change. No, sometimes if you have to sub out Jonathan David, you do it, right? If he's having a stinker, which he did, it was a horrible game, you hook him, and he did, right? There was no hand wringing. He brought him out before he brought out Taniolo O'Shea, right? He was the first one subbed out at the hour mark. I thought after that first half, I thought Taniolo O'Shea and Richie Laryea were getting subbed out at halftime. And I told you guys in the group chat, they must have heard me talking shit, because in the second half, they were both fantastic. So that's a different story, right? But that also plays into maybe Jesse Marsh spoke with them, or tweaked the responsibilities, or brought in something different to help them get the best out of it. And that's the thing. Jesse Marsh so far has proven that he can put people in a position where they thrive. Whether it's Tejan Buchanan coming out of the wingback position into the wing, whether it's dropping Alfonso Davies out of the wing position and back into fullback. I just don't understand why he doesn't do that for the midfield. Because so far, you go away from the three back to a four back, and that brings out the best of Derek Cornelius and Moise Bombito and Luc de Fougerolles. That's not, but so all over the pitch, I see him make these changes that bring out the best in the players and suit them incredibly well, and their production jumps leaps and bounds from what we've seen under the previous administration. And then I look at the midfield and I feel like they're going backwards because they're being
I
hamstrung.
agree.
And I
I
feel like
agree.
we're not only are we not getting the best out of Ishmael Kone and Steven Eustachio, I feel like this formation and these tactics are the direct antithesis of what would make them thrive, because they need that freedom and that kind of almost that peace of mind that if Ismail Kone wants to drive forward with the ball, he can, because he has a ball winning midfielder behind him. Someone like Inigo Seeger, who right now is the best ball winning midfield on the team. Someone like maybe in a couple of years, Nathan Saliba. But right now, you're also exposing the two center backs to these counterattacks, which they almost got countered like 3 or 4 times in the second half when they really started to push. So, chapeau for making these good mid-game adjustments. But I still think the overall tactical philosophy is not bringing the best out of the most important part of the park, if we're being honest.
And I think the next game more than the last is actually going to show the flexibility of Jesse Marsh and how what he saw, if he's actually willing to be flexible. There were things that didn't work that worked. He quickly needs to adapt, because the second game just became that much more important when the game against Bosnia ended in a draw. Now we're going to talk about the score now, because we had a Mr. Feng Chang that said what a relief to get a point, Robbie that says results was a disappointment. And also our friend said, don't forget Bosnia beat Italy, so it was not a walk in the park. Of course, it wasn't a walk in the park. It was a very challenging game, but at the same time, I think Canada has a lot of pressure in this. And I'm not just talking about Canada, I'm talking about the US and also Mexico. The hosts have a lot of pressure in performing and winning these games, because they have to prove that they belong at this level, because they were kind of given a free pass just for hosting. So there's a lot of pressure there. But also Canada, this is their second World Cup, and the first one, obviously, I believe
So
they
the
made it
third
to the
World Cup.
sixth, to the 16th, to the 16th round, right? I don't remember that far back, but anyways, the game ends in a 1-1, right, against Bosnia. What were your thoughts of the game overall, and how are you feeling moving forward, knowing that the first game ended in a draw? Are you excited, nervous? Are you positive? I'll start with you. How are you feeling moving forward after this game?
Honestly, when you look at Canada, it doesn't change much, because the most important game from the get go was, first of all, making sure you have a point from Bosnia, at least. And second of all, winning the game against Qatar. It wasn't very important, the other results. It wasn't very important, whatever happened. So at the same time, like, we're on track to exactly what we want to do, points wise. We are on track. So now the important thing is to win against Qatar. That's going to be super important. You don't win against Qatar, that's a big, big, big problem. The reason behind it is that Qatar right now is in a very good place. The reason behind it was, if you look at the game, and if you look at the group, we talked about it last week when we were doing the predictions. Qatar was able to get a point from what we thought was going to be the first in the group, Switzerland. Okay. At the same time, Qatar is supposed to be the fourth. So that's a very good thing for Qatar. For Canada, they got a point from, I think, the worst opponent they had in that group, which is Bosnia. So right now, there's nothing to really say about whatever happened, but the real game starts on Thursday. That's gonna be the everything. That's gonna define the World Cup of Canada. The next game is gonna define the World Cup of Canada.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Elias, after the 1-1 draw, how are you feeling about Canada, and how are you feeling about them heading into their second game? You excited? Are you nervous? What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with both Chan and Robbie. I was relieved to get the point,
Mhm.
but I was also disappointed because it should
For
have been,
sure.
it could have and should have been more. So I think they're both right to a certain extent because especially with the Swiss draw against Qatar, if Canada would have managed to grab 3 points, then they
Good.
were already like not in, but you're as close to qualified for the round of 32 as as you can get. Um, Nevertheless, this draw between Switzerland and Qatar puts Canada in a great spot because again, Qatar played well and they did very well to kind of not only equalize, but they kind of got screwed over because the build up to the Swiss penalty was. I was talking about it with a bunch of people, including my brother, and it was very suspect. That was offside. That's all I'm gonna say. That was offside. And so FIFA released the pictures after the fact with the lines. And if you look at the lines, and if you put on your tinfoil hat, those are terribly drawn lines. So all of a sudden, the semi-automated offside is not working. And then they send out the lines that are drawn, and the lines are on like the elbow, not the armpit. I'm like, oh my god. Anyway, so Qatar has every right to feel hard done, but the reality of the situation is, in that first half, Switzerland should have scored at least 3 or 4 goals. At the least,
Exactly.
they should have killed the game, right? Like we can give Qatar all the applause and the respect that they deserve because it's a huge result for them. Just like it's a huge result for Canada to get their first ever point in a World Cup. But you have to also understand that Canada should be creating as many opportunities, if not more, with the
Yeah,
talent.
they will.
And so now is where, Jonathan David, can you kind of regain that form that I have not seen from you in like a year? Promise David, can you establish yourself as the next big, player in Canadian soccer? Kyle Larin, can you come off the bench and do that again? Because we talked. I don't want Kyle Larin to start. Him coming off the bench with his experience, his intelligence, and his eye for goal, fine. Especially in a game where you need a goal and you know that he's not going to have to do that much running. I'm totally fine with him coming off the bench. I don't want him to start. I don't think he fits in this system as a starter, but he proved his value. He got one shot on goal. It got deflected, but still a good. It was a good strike. He got into the right position, and at the end of the day, they don't ask how, they ask how many, and he got one. That's what matters. So this game against Qatar is going to be super interesting, but also Canada should not go into it being like, oh, they drew. Oh shit, we might draw. No, they have to go in going like we have to beat their ass. Because again, first tiebreaker is goal differential.
Yeah.
No,
So
not
it-
anymore. Not
it's-
anymore.
It's
It's head to head now.
No, but that's between teams that are tied, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I expect Canada to beat Qatar, which means that tiebreaker is already set. Everything else, if you want to compare, is going to be related to other teams.
Yeah.
So goal differential is still extremely important,
Yeah,
especially
it's gonna be
if you draw.
it's the second tiebreaker, so it's super
So
important.
not
I agree.
only do you have to beat Qatar, you have to beat them convincingly. I'm talking
Yeah.
about you have to win by 2 or 3 goals at least, right? And again, this is not disrespectful to Qatar because they've done well. I'm now holding Canada to this standard. If they want to be a team that's taken seriously, that can compete for the round of 32 and the round of 16, you have to beat Qatar and you have to do it handily.
It's not about respect, Elias. It's not about disrespecting
They drew
Qatar or
Switzerland,
whatever.
they deserve respect.
No, it's just we're lucky. Let's say it, right? They were lucky. It's like you look at Cap Verde today, Cape Verde today, and they were lucky. Yeah,
Spain was terrible. Spain was terrible.
Dude, they should have scored like 6 goals. Like, come on, like the goalkeeper that's 40 like had the game of his life. Like, come on,
we'll
man.
talk.
Like,
We'll talk about the
Yeah,
other
but
games a little
it's
later.
not like
Let-
he oops his
one
way
sec.
into making these saves.
What I'm saying,
they drew
what I'm
on
saying,
merit.
let me finish. What I'm saying, yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they didn't drew on merit. Yes, they did. But having 2 games of the same caliber is
Yes.
almost impossible. So if Qatar plays the same game that they play against Switzerland, we're gonna crush them. It's impossible for them to win or to
I
get
agree.
a point.
I
Right?
agree
So
with that.
no disrespect. It's just what it is. It's the nature of the game. They're just not as strong as Canada and Switzerland. Now they did okay against Switzerland. They managed to score a goal. I think Switzerland lost that game or lost those 2 points, and not
Mhm.
Qatar won them. And this is what we need to make sure of. We need to make sure that we score one, then two, then three. That's going to be super important. We cannot just score one and just wait for Qatar to come at us. We need to score more than one. We need to
Yeah.
be dominant. And we need to play exactly the same game that we played against Bosnia. Because if we play exactly the same game, we'll win. It's not going to be a
Yeah.
problem because we created chances. It's just Bosnia was a great defensive team. Qatar
Mhm.
is not a great defensive team. So
I don't know. You're asking for Canada to play the same game and they're going to play well. I don't disagree with you, but knowing how Jesse Marsh has been coaching and doing his selections and the style, I don't think he'll play the same game at all. I think he's going to come out with a box of surprises that's going to take us all back. Is it going to work? Maybe. Is it not going to work? We don't know. We'll figure that out. But I have my doubts about Jesse Marsh. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think he has a very nice personality and is very much a people person that he knows how to, you know, kind of stir up his players, I guess, do really good speeches, but tact with his tactics and all that, his selections, I have my questions. All right, just to finish the game of Bosnia versus Canada, I want to hear your top and your flop of the game. Okay, so Heidi, I'll start with you. Who was your top and who was your flop of that game?
my top performer was Richie Laria. I loved his game. Honestly, I think he was so important defensively. I know that in the first half he had some moments, but in the second half, man, he saved us like quite a few
Yeah.
times in the counters, and this is exactly what we needed. We needed this Richie Larea at that time because we were dominating so much and leaving so much space in behind that we needed someone that's going to be fast and that's going to take the right calls all the time. And I loved what I saw. For the worst performer, there are a few. There are a few,
What about
unfortunately.
the
But
set pieces, man? That's the flop of the game. I did not like the I'm throwing my opinion out there, Heidi,
You're
before you
playing
say
against
yours.
arguably one of the best set piece teams in the tournament. Like
No, it
exactly,
was
I
bad. You can't
mean,
fail that many times. I'm sorry.
if anything, I think the fact that they only conceded once is like
it's already a great
it's a
a
win.
great result.
I
Um,
don't know. Glass half full, glass.
my
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
my worst performer was Tachin Buchanan, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, because when I look at the level of expectation that I have from Tachin Buchanan, he was so far below the standards that I expect of him that for me, he's the worst performer in my eyes. You had, I'm sorry, like you had space, on the left, you had like on left side of the defense of Bosnia, you don't have like on the right, you had Amar Didic, right? Who's great. But on the left, I don't even remember the name of the guy
It's
that was
Kolasinac,
there.
man.
No, Kolasinac was in the center defender. So it was a
They,
central
they played in
defender.
a back five, and he was like the left sided center back.
Yeah, true. But like I thought Kolasinac was a Marseille player, so he's great.
He's
But
fantastic, right? He was
he
he was
but
for how
but
old is he? He's like 35 for he kept up with Dejan
34,
Buchanan.
35, yeah.
He kept
Yeah,
up
but
with Dejan
like
Buchanan, man.
but it wasn't only him because there was the wing back also that was coming back. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah, I know they double teamed him. Yes,
exactly they double teamed him. But I think that still with those two, with the fact that the wing back was playing really high, we should have created more. He should have
Mhm.
created more. And I didn't see anything from him. And you look at Liam Miller at the other side, where I'm not expecting much of him, and he was okay-ish. Buchanan was way below standards, and after the season that he had, no, I was very disappointed.
Look, before I get to your top and your flop, Elias, man, I gotta get a tequila bottle and take a shot every time Hari says Marseille in this show. Oh, because he was in Marseille. Oh, because that happens in Marseille. Bro, the other day, Hari and I were at a panel. Shout out to Sid Fo for his event. And they were talking about something. And Paris Saint-Germain came up. And you hear Hari in the crowd. Whoo! It's like, CK. I was like, Hattie, this guy, man, his passion for Marseille.
I gotta
I
respect
don't know.
it.
For those
I
of
would
you
do the
that have been
same
listening
thing.
to the show for
There was five ex Marseille player on the
okay,
pitch
why did I even
between
start?
Canada and
Where's my
Boston. So
tequila
like,
bottle?
I
It's
don't
actually
know.
true, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know, man. Like we're everywhere. We're everywhere. What can I tell you?
All right, Ella, Ella is your top and your
Before
flop of the
before
game.
I get into these players, I have to address something because Chan, if you lucky for 2000, Greek 2004 is
You can't say that to a Greek,
diabolical.
John. You
Nah,
can't
nah,
say
nah,
that
nah,
to
nah.
a Greek.
I will send you
Otoriago
to the
had
fucking shadow
it wasn't
realm,
lucky.
man.
It wasn't lucky.
Nah, nah,
Otoriago
nah, nah, nah.
had a great system and it worked very well. It was a revolutionary system with the small
Exactly.
squares that he had. Like every player had his square to defend.
Exactly.
It was really, really
When
a
does Greece play?
masterpiece of Chris.
When does Greece play?
The same time Peru plays.
Oh, okay.
Fuck up, man.
Oh!
Fucking guy, man. Jesus.
Just asking. Just wondering. Hey, go ahead. You see what
Sis,
you do, Hattie? God damn.
I didn't
You
do
started
anything.
it.
You started it.
Anyway,
Let's go, guys.
one more like that, Chan, and I'm putting you in timeout, and I could do that. So, but no, I actually do agree
Nobody
with
does
him.
that.
I do agree with him though. My top is Luc de Fougerolles. We talked about
That's
how
great.
high his ceiling was going into this tournament, and he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So much so that I think when Moise Bombito, if and when Moise Bombito is ready to come back, it's Derek Cornelius that's stepping out and not
Yes.
him. He was flawless. He is everything you want from a modern center back. He is arguably right now, in terms of pure form, the best Canadian center back that
Yeah.
on the team. And I love his game. He controls everything. He's intelligent. He's physically, even though he's not as imposing as some of the other center backs. I think he's the shortest center back on the team. He uses his body. He uses his center of gravity very well, and he wasn't muscled off the ball. He didn't get, he didn't look out of place against, again, a very physically imposing Bosnian team. So Luc de Fougerolles, again, chapeau, unbelievable. He was delightful. My flop is easy. My flop is Jonathan David. You're the leading goal scorer. You are, without Alfonso Davies on the field, you are the star. There's a million adjectives you could use, but and so young. Robbie said, and so he's 20 years old, man. He might be one of, like, every World Cup there's like a guy that earns a big move after showing out.
Yeah.
He might be one of those players this year that gets a multi-million-dollar move
Now we're
away
talking
from
back
Fulham.
of the
Of
Fougerolles,
Luc de
right?
Fougerolles,
Okay.
not Jonathan
Obviously,
David.
you were talking about Jonathan David. I'm like, he's not 20.
No, but but Luc de Fougerolles is 20 years old, playing
Yeah.
at Fulham. So either Fulham is going to use him a lot next year in the Premier League, or he's going to get a pretty significant transfer fee. Either way, huge things coming for him, and I'm so happy for him. My flop is Jonathan David. For the same reason that Hadi chose Tejan Buchanan, you cannot be this level, these expectations, and drop this much of a stinker. Arguably worse than Buchanan's game, because
Oh yeah, I just wanted to
if
leave,
you are one of
I
the
wanted
best
to leave
pure
you, Jonathan
finishers in
David.
Europe, thank you. It's very good. If you're one of the
Honestly.
best, oh, Uruguay just scored.
Oh, 1-1. Okay.
If you're one of the
Great
best
goal.
pure finishers in Europe, and you drop a stinker like that when your country needs you the most, that's unacceptable. So right now, and again, I spoke about how I don't want him in the starting 11, but Jesse Marsh clearly does. With Kyle Aaron scoring and how dominant and overwhelming Promise David was in his cameo, Jonathan David has to fight for his spot. That's just the reality of the hierarchy with the Canadian team right now. So I never thought I'd have to say that, because for me, he was, along with Davies, the only name that was beyond doubt. When they're fit, they're on the team. But Jonathan David has had a rough season in Juve, and it has carried over. So I think that he needs to kind of maybe just take a breath and calm down, because it's clear that the size and the importance of the game got to him. And I hope that we get to see the Jonathan David that is the all-time leading scorer, because he is there. And if he had shown up on what was it on?
Yeah,
I
the
don't
first
remember what day
chance
the game
around the
was.
20th
Right?
minute or something
Then
like that.
Canada would have 3 points, and we wouldn't be having the same kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I'll keep it simple too. My flop was also Tajon Buchanan, just because ever since the Ireland game, I told you, Hattie, when we were at the game, I told you, dude, I'm not very impressed with him. And I feel like he needs to be the poster boy of this team. He's so talented. He's such a difference maker. And yet he's doing very little to nothing to impact the game. And unfortunately, we saw that also against Bosnia. My top, though, I got to say it, are the Canadian fans. My God, did they show out early,
Yeah,
too. Early. They showed out in Toronto. They were rocking the
Because I
street.
was
They
there.
made,
That's why. Because I was there.
they
they
were,
got
I
international
showed them the
recognition. By the
way.
way,
Huh?
they
the
all
the,
followed.
Yeah.
the way that Canada and US has been clowned by South America, Asia, Europe, Africa by online, all of a sudden I'm seeing all these accounts on Twitter that are, well-known European and South American accounts going like, "Oh shit, I didn't
Yeah,
know Canada had it like that." And
yeah.
they didn't say that about the States. But they did say that about Canada. That march to the stadium. Oh my god! Also, shout out Sofiane Benzaza, who was caught in the video. We see you.
Wearing
We see,
wearing wearing green.
wearing a
Wearing
teal blue
green.
shirt.
Such a clown, this guy. He's such a clown. I love
Sofiane, we see
Sofiane.
you. We love
I
you.
was I
But
was with
that
them
that
during
march through Toronto, I got goosebumps. And the fact that the Canadian, especially with how underwhelmed I was by the Canadian fans in Montreal, they showed up in Toronto.
Yeah,
They showed
yeah.
up. They were loud. They made me proud to be a Canadian soccer fan. And shit, keep it up for Vancouver.
Well, I'm happy they made you proud to be a Canadian fan, because I am already a proud Canadian fan. And you know what? I want to say this too, because I said it after Stade Saputo. I said on this show, I was like, I found the fans, even though they were loud next to us, I did find that they were not too loud throughout the game. I felt like the Irish fans were louder. This
Yeah.
time around, not the same at all. I was very impressed, and that's why they were very loud. I'm also very happy the US won. Let's move on to Qatar, the
What?
next game on
What?
Thursday.
No,
So
no.
what
You
would
Just
you
don't
guys
drop
say
that
that
in
on
there.
the show. You don't say that on the show.
What happened?
Strike one,
Okay,
Andy.
so
We
Strike
don't talk
one.
about predictions.
well, we're getting to
No,
it.
no pro US
We're
sentiment on
getting
this
to it,
show. What's the
Hadi.
matter with you?
Can you relax? Jesus, just following the script, okay? So
You're
next
not
Get a
game,
grip,
following
Andy.
anything.
next game Thursday against Qatar in Vancouver, right? Another opportunity for Canadian fans to show themselves. How are you guys feeling about that game? Elias, I'll start with you. How are you feeling about the game? What needs to change? What needs to change? And at the end, I want you to tell me the prediction of the game.
What needs to change is Promise David needs to be let loose on this Qatari defense. We talked about it in the preview show. If you guys want to go back to last week's episode, Qatar has a porous defense to be. That's the kind way of saying, but it's also an old defense. It's experienced, but I don't think physically they're ready for whatever the hell Promise David is going to throw at them. Because he had a fantastic cameo off the bench. And now you have a Promise David that is confident, that doesn't feel encumbered by any kind of physical limitations in terms of coming back from injury. And now you let him loose. Even if you even Jesse Marsh lets him loose for an hour and you pull him off at the hour mark, it's a terrifying thing. Having 6'4" and 180 to 190 pounds worth of Promise David charging you at full speed with surprising technical ability and borderline frothing at the mouth to get a goal. And he's going to do unspeakable things, whether it's just setting the tone and getting some fouls early. He did that against Bosnia. I expect him to do it against Qatar. I think that's the big change for me. We still don't know what Alphonso Davies' status is. I love if he got at least 15 minutes just to say hey, I'm here and I'm making my way back. But for me, the big change has to be Promise David alongside most likely Jonathan David. But I need complete physical overwhelming and overwhelmed. I don't know what the
It's okay.
overwhelmingness. There you go. That's
okay.
the word.
It's all right.
The print
And your
journalist over here. Fuck yeah.
Let's take it down a notch, guys. Okay, let's calm down. Circle in. All right,
Yeah, this is me clearly yelling and going crazy. And
guys, calm down. All right, everybody, settle down. Elias, what is your prediction for the game?
I'm thinking. I'm gonna go clean sheet. 3-0. for Canada.
Oh, for who? Canada. Okay. 3
No,
nothing.
for Qatar.
I don't know. He's gone for Toronto before. Hadi, go ahead. What is your
When?
what?
Okay, yeah, that's strike two.
Hey,
That's strike two.
hey, what I do? Am I
We're
wrong?
halfway through the show and you're already on strike two. Take it easy.
Was it me? What I do?
No, he said he
What do
loved
you mean?
Toronto. He didn't go for
Ah,
Toronto.
okay,
He
okay.
No,
said
I
he loved
said
Sorry.
to.
Toronto.
Oh my god, you're on strike one, Hadi. Oh my god, this fucking guy.
All right, so tell
Okay.
us what's got to change. What are you looking forward to, and maybe your prediction at the end.
Honestly, I'm not going to be very original, but because I completely agree with Elias, I was writing some notes here, and I want to see the two Davids up front, and I think having Promise David and Jonathan David is going to help Jonathan David, create chances
Mhm.
and get chances on a goal, shots on goal, because Promise David, his physical presence is like occupies the central defense. Like the
Yeah.
central defenders are not going to be able to do anything else than just try to mark that beast because he's a beast, right? And you need that. You really need that up front. Um, Also, and I agree also with Elias. If Bombito is fit again, I would like him to be with Luc de Fougerolles and not Derek Cornelius. We didn't talk a lot about Derek Cornelius, but he did exactly the same game as he did against Ireland with some very good stuff, but at the same time, when he loses the ball, it's just not normal. Sometimes he has cramps and it just doesn't work, right? So hopefully we'll see a Bambito with the Fougerolles. I don't think it will happen, but I hope that this will happen. Um, and also, I think that Jesse Marsh is going to have to change his mindset in a way where if after the hour mark, maybe the 50th minute, not even the hour mark, before the hour mark, around the 50th minute, if you don't have more than a 2-goal lead, you're going to need to change your midfield. And I would like to have a Chouanière come in, not a Saliba, but a Chouanière come in, because Chouanière is going to be able. He's a really good box to box player. You're not going to need that metronome that stays in behind, that deep lying midfielder that stays in behind that you have with Steven Eustachio. You're going to need a player that's going to be able to run all across the field and try some shots and go up front, get the ball in the box, and you need that Mathieu Chouanière there. So I hope we're gonna see him in case the result is not favorable for Canada. For my prediction, I'm going to say a 4-1 win for Canada.
Okay, interesting. I think it's going to be a tie, 1-1. All right.
Oh
So
my
before we
god.
dive into all the
Somehow
rest of
more
this,
pessimistic than Robbie, who said one thing for Canada. Unbelievable.
Alright. So before we dive into the rest of the stuff, quick little message for y'all. If you like what the ball is round brings you, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. It really helps the show grow and keeps us bringing you more content every single week. Guys, we have been bringing content to the people on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, everywhere. Guys, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in always. But we continue doing this because we love it, and don't the way you can give back to us is a quick little like or a follow to our personal accounts too, right, Hattie? Right, Liz? Right, Andy? Our personal accounts would also help us out. So don't forget, drop. We know you've already been doing it, but drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you thought of the Canada game, of Rose's game, or FC Super game, and we'll talk about it here. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. So we did have a game from the Canada women's national team that they won a friendly game against Costa Rica, 6-0. Goals from Evelyn Vienne, Janice Sonis
Sonis.
with a
Sonis.
hat trick, Jordan Witema, and I say these names terribly, and Mary Yasmin Alidou.
There you go.
But also, before we talk about the game, because I did see like a clip. I didn't read the whole article interview, nor did I hear it nor read it, but I did see a little clip where she talks about the length of time that there is between friendlies. Right? They don't have another one until I think a few months from now. Right? That's crazy. That's. Do you guys think that's poor planning? What do you guys say? What do you guys see
That's
there.
FIFA windows. Like, it's like
But is it normal? Do you think it's normal to be that huge of a gap between friendlies?
usually there's friendlies in March and then June and then it's September or October.
Yeah.
Like this is the normal thing for international windows. Now I'm not sure. Maybe Canada Soccer didn't set up any friendlies. I didn't check the schedule, but maybe they didn't set up any friendlies in the September or the October window, and that would be problematic. And if that's the case, but it's normal to have June then September. This is like the
Okay,
normal
maybe
way.
maybe it's the September window because I felt like she said that the coach said that there was problem. Anyways, going back to that friendly, um, we've criticized the national team for not scoring a lot of goals in the past few years, but 6 goals this time around. What did you guys think? What do you guys think of the results? What are your thoughts just seeing overall the game? How do I'll start with you?
Honestly, very positive because last time we played, Costa Rica, not last time, but we when we played them in the Gold Cup in 2024, we only managed to beat them 1-0 in the phase, and then we managed to beat them a bit later 3-0. But even when we won 3-0, it was very tough. Like, those 3 goals, came and it wasn't very fluid. I watched the game against Costa Rica this not last Tuesday, but like the following day. I watched it, and honestly, it was very fluid. The girls really created so many chances. They could have scored even more. Uh, we look like a team that's ready to score. And that's very different than what we've seen under Beth Priestman, under Kenneth Heiner Muller. And we're seeing a team that wants to dominate, wants to score, wants to have possession, and is able to create chances. And that's something that we haven't seen from the Canadian women's national team in a while. So I'm really, really happy. Also, I love the fact that Stony's gives her chance to Evelyn Vian up front, thing that wasn't being done before under the two
Yeah.
other head coaches. So yeah, no, very very interesting. And Janine Sonis scoring a hat trick. That's always nice to see, even if she married a Greek. Uh, no, that's always nice to see. So,
Strike two, man.
It's
for
so
people
Settle
terrible.
down.
for,
It's so
for
bad,
people
man.
that wonder who's Janine Sonis, she was Janine Becky, and she got married, so now she's Janine Sonis. So
Oh, that's why I
so,
couldn't say her name because it was Greek.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Elias, what did you think of the game?
You're
What did
on 2 strikes, huh?
you're
I'm
like
calling that a foul ball tip. You're
eh, eh,
close. Fuck.
any Latino listeners to this, when we used to when our parents were about to punish us, and maybe in English they said it too, they will be like a la una, a las dos y media, at 2.5, 2 3/4, and you're like, it's
Right.
coming, but I keep getting
Next
chances.
time, I have
And
my
then
wooden ruler. Okay,
Elias, let's
you're gonna
clip that
fucking
right
get it.
there. Elias with a ruler. Elias, tell us what you think of the 6-0 game of the Canada women's national team versus Costa Rica.
Hadi said a good chunk of it. Right, this is a team that for this generation of the women's national team, the chance creation's always been there, but it was the final bit. It was the final ball. It was the final finish. It was never there. And they had a world class back line, an incredibly solid midfield, and forwards that get the job done at top European clubs. So where the disconnect was always a mystery to me. And so getting six, putting 6 on Costa Rica is a nice. It's a good way to start your World Cup year, right? We're T-1 year from the Women's World Cup, so this is a good statement of intention.
Yeah,
We talked about how big the gap because there's a summer break for the international window, but there's 2 windows. There's one September and one in October. You
yeah.
have to
October there's
get.
going to be a training camp. I don't think they have an opponent for September. I checked it
See,
out.
that's disappointing.
That's the problem. Yeah,
That's
Right?
the problem that I
Because
was
if
talking
you're
about.
a
Yeah.
top 10 national team that is looking to kind of get back into the mix of being contenders, now that Europe has kind of taken over the women's soccer scene, right? After being a bit late to the party, they've now established themselves as the real heavyweights. If you really want to put yourself back in that conversation, not only should you be having friendlies, but you should be having friendlies against Holland, against Japan, against Brazil, against a France, right? France is a team that, by the way, that you played extremely well against in the Olympics. all with practically with a handicap with the
Yeah,
points deduction, right? So all these things, if you want to go back to that level, not only do you need friendlies, you need top level friendlies to kind of set the
yeah,
tone for
for
your
sure.
next 8 to 10 months in the build up to this World Cup. Now, on the field, right? I feel like this is still a Canada that's kind of floating around finding its perfect 11. Like how he said, Evelyn
Yeah,
Viens, who never really got a fair shake under uh not just one manager, but I feel like under every single Canadian manager that she's played for, has never gone, despite being one of the best finishers in Italy, has never really gotten the chance to really establish herself. I hope that games like this kind of remind people that not only is she a valuable member, but she is, for me at least, the front runner to be Olivia Smith's backup. Because I think Olivia Smith, when fully fit and everything's ready, she is undisputed the starter. She's arguably the best player on the team right now. But I think that Evelyn Viens still has incredible value, especially with her experience and her nose for goal. Everyone around her, you look at the people that have come and gone. I still think that they need to find an attacking identity. I've been asking for this for since I joined the pod, and it's still the case for me. So I think that that what you need to do now is kind of understand your starting 11, which is again a process in and of itself. But after that, you also have to understand how you're going to look when you're attacking, and I still don't get that from them defensively, especially with Kadisha Buchanan finally back from her ACL injury, Vanessa Gilles back in really good form with Bayern. You have Jade Rose. You have the fullbacks that are really coming to fruition. The back line is back to looking as reliable and solid as it did 4 years ago. That's fine, but the attack is still incredibly nebulous for me, and I think that they need to do a lot of work to figure out, like I said, who are your go-to attackers and how do you want them to attack? Because I still don't know. When I watch the game, and even if you just watch the highlights and you watch the goals, you can't really get like this is Canadian football, and I don't get that from them yet.
There have
interesting.
been there. We'll talk about other World Cup game guys, but there have been some surprises today for some World Cup
Yeah,
results. Saudi Arabia, Uruguay now just finished 1-1. Then we had Spain earlier. This is a World Cup, guys. This is a really interesting World Cup now.
I love
All
it.
right, but sorry, just because the game just finished. But what I want to know, because we cover Roses FC also here. Um, when we speak about the Canada women's national team, is there anyone in that roster of the Roses FC roster that you think could potentially be a decent backup or even really have a chance as a starter? I'm going to say, I really believe Lisa Petrosky belongs, deserves a spot and during these friendlies before the World Cup to really show what she can do, because I think she's played at a different level. What do you guys think? How do you is there anyone in particular that you think might deserve a shot at maybe some of
yeah.
these friendly windows?
I agree with your choice. Lisa Percheski should be, close to getting a call up. From, in my opinion, she should be called up. Now, there's a lot of competitions up front in Canada, so there's a lot of players that are very good and are already were already selected and already capped with the national team, and I
Yeah,
think
but she
that's
plays
why.
several different positions, right? Right back, right wing, middle. She can play literally.
Yeah, they have that already. That if you look at, like, Janine Sonis is the perfect example. She's exactly that, right? So, and she scored a hat trick. So, like, Janine Sonis is at a different level too. So don't forget that. But I agree that she could be very interesting because she can play on the right, but she can also play on the left. And we saw her in the game in the game against Toronto. We'll talk about that a bit later. But the problem that we have with Canada Soccer and with the Canadian women's national team is that it's exactly the same problem that we have with Evelyn Vian. And the reason why Evelyn Vian wasn't called up is because she was never called up with the youth teams. And when you're
Yeah.
not called up with the youth teams, unfortunately, you fall off the radar. And that's exactly what happened with Lisa Percheski. She's never been called up with the youth teams, or I don't think she had. And that's why, like, they don't know her. Like, I hope that they're watching NSL and they're gonna realize that
They better
they
be, yeah.
have, yeah, they better be, because I think they are, because they did select Pridham, and they did select a couple of players from the NSL. So hopefully we'll see that pretty soon, because she does deserve a call up. I think also we have a player like Stephanie Hill, even if she hasn't been very good in the last 2 3 games, but it's a player that could have the level of play to be called up. Um, so hopefully we'll see that at one point, and I hope that we're going to see that in the next couple of months, like maybe in October in the training camp. I think that's a great opportunity in the training camp to call up a bit more players and see them, with the team, and see what they can do at that level. I think that's going to be the opportunity for Casey Stoney.
Elias, what do you think? Is there anybody in Roses that gives you the impression that they should be getting a call up?
I mean, Lisa Petrisky is the obvious answer because it's an obvious answer. But you look at the depth right now, the depth chart in the Roses, and the only other person I could see, because again, it's so tough to break in as a central defender, and Stephanie Hill has the height and the distribution quality to make a name for herself. But again, you have people that are playing in the Champions League
Yeah, yeah.
semifinals,
You have
so
three.
it's
You have three central defender.
right.
You have the fourth spot.
Yeah. So that's the thing, right? She may be able to sneak in because I do think that she's arguably one of, if not the best central defender in the NSL, on pure talent. But again, it's very tough to get in. So
Yeah, very
the
tough.
other
Like
person I think
you need to beat Zadarski, which is going to be pretty tough.
exactly right. So the only other person I think that has right now that has a shot to get into the national team is Chloe Minas, because I think that the central midfield depth is a little bit tricky right now. But again, we're talking about super competitive here, right? And that's
I'm
again
not sure.
that's as like one of the rotational players or one of the camp players. I don't mean as a starter here,
Yeah,
but
I understand. But you look
but
at the midfield. You do have Regan. You have Simi Ujo. You have
yeah,
Julia Grosso. You have a lot of talent. And don't forget, you have
but that's the
the
thing, right? Like I'm
Annabelle
talking
Tuku
about.
also.
Again, this is a long, but I was like, if there's
Yeah.
anyone else, Lisa Petrisky is the obvious answer right now because of just the form she's in. But Stephanie Hill and Chloe Minas right now, if they can continue playing this level and then build on it because they're both still young, then yeah, they can at least be considered for camp. I think absolutely.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to Rose FC, who went on to play AFC Toronto during the weekend. This was their second matchup of the season against Toronto at Toronto for the second time, and the game ended in a draw, 1-1 draw. Um, I think it was a pretty important game. I do think that there were, you know, with this whole World Cup madness and everything, I think we're kind of forgetting about some of the maybe the NSL or the CPL games that are going on, but they are still very, very important games during the season that are happening. And we're seeing a lot of these players. We saw
Who's
Marilou
forgetting? Who's forgetting?
I guess it's just me.
Yeah.
We saw Marilou Harvey get her start. All right, so thank you, Elias, for bringing up the starting lineup. So at goalie we had Anna Karpenko, and Valerie Seto, Lucy Capadonna, Stephanie Hill in the back as the back line, back three, with Haley Whitaker as a right wing back, Chloe Menage, Charlotte Bibo as the midfield, Megan Sauvé as the left wing back, Lisa Pechersky and Shairim as the 10, and Bennett as the 9. So when you see this lineup, what did you guys? I know Elias, you have your thoughts on this. Maybe kind of give us your instant reaction when you saw that lineup for the Roses against Toronto.
Look, I was excited because I think I was happy to see Chirim Kang in her natural position, not playing out wide as a wingback, but more playing, in behind the striker, in more advanced areas on the pitch. But besides that, right, this feels like a strongest 11. This feels like you're putting Tanya Boychuk is obviously the one name that that we didn't really see because she just came back from international break. She played at Anfield, by the way. That's awesome with the Ukrainian national team. But this was a very strong 11. I was very happy with this 11. I told you guys how excited was I to see Pechersky, Bennett, and Chirim playing together. So yeah, I was very happy to see this. I was very excited to see this 11 in action.
Yeah, same. I mean, it was definitely The strongest one. I was kind of surprised to see Haley Whitaker because again, I don't think she's done much this season, at least to prove that she deserves to start. But Robert Rossitoy is trying different things and seeing what works or what not, and it's still early in the season, but still important minutes to get to be able to get a best idea of what works, especially with and we'll talk about the top and flops in a minute, but especially with the way I feel that right now André Seto is adapting to the position of the right center back. Hattie, when you see that lineup, that selection by Robert Rossitoy, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I was intrigued because, as you said, Robert Rositoyo is trying new things, and when you're playing, when you're starting a season and when you're building a squad, you need to make sure that every player has its place in the squad. So if you don't give them minutes, you're not going to know the kind of place that they're going to take. So it's important to give chances, to give a place, and I love that. And let's face it, okay, losing against Toronto at that point of the season wouldn't have been like a big problem. Like you're you have more than enough games to come back. You're playing away from home. Uh, I think it was the perfect game to try something. I think it was like the right moment to try something, and especially that also your team is not doing very well. And we'll talk about the form of the team, but in the last 4 games, you have 2 draws, 1 loss, and 1 win. So it was the moment to do something different. And I think I love that. I love that from Robert Rosito. You can't be afraid to try different schemes, different players at different roles. Because at one point you're gonna have injuries. At one point you're gonna have people that are out of form. Players that are out of form. You're gonna need to use that squad at the depth of your squad. So might as well try it right now.
And you talked about form, Hattie. Last week we talked about it because Roses had lost 3-0, 3-2, sorry, against Vancouver, the Vancouver Rise, and it wasn't last week. I think it was 2 weeks ago,
No,
right?
2 weeks ago.
And it was, when we watched the game, we saw how, Roses
3 weeks ago. Sorry, 3 weeks ago. Yeah,
3 weeks
been a
ago.
while.
So we saw how almost Roses FC struggled a bit, defending and reacting, especially late in the game. They seemed to be kind of asleep at times. So this was a very, very important game. I was kind of surprised because essentially Toronto did go up first 1-0, and then Roses FC scored later on in the game. Lisa Petersky with an amazing run down the field to score that tying goal. I always ask this, guys. First of all, I want to hear what your thoughts are of the game overall. And second, does this tie feel like a win or a loss? Because a tie to me has different feelings. I'm not never satisfied with a tie. So, Elias, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts overall of the game, and how'd you feel about the tie?
The tie feels like a win, but that's not a good thing, right? It feels like a win because Keely Hunter missed a penalty,
Oh yeah,
an inexcusable miss of a penalty, and you scored the 94th minute to bring one back. That always feels like a win, especially because I, like many others, kind of accepted the fact that they were going to lose their second game in a row, and they didn't because of a piece of individual brilliance. But my bigger issue right now is the fact that this team is becoming overly reliant on playing down the wings.
hmm
Right? This whole system is. I believe that the way this, especially when you look at this lineup in this shape, which I think we can all agree is more or less how they line up,
yeah,
is built on building the ball up through the middle and using the wing backs as kind of a release. And at the beginning of the season, I think they did that extremely well, where they would find Chirim or Sauvé or Whitaker down the flank after really forcing opposing teams to collapse in the midfield to deal with the being outnumbered. And then, you build out wide. Against Toronto, I think, again, this is also credit to Toronto, who did a good job of forcing Montreal to play wide. They didn't give any access to the middle of the park. But again, Montreal, if you have, 3 center backs that are good with their feet, if you have Krimenas and Charlotte Bibo, who are both great with their feet, and you have 2 technically proficient number 10s in Chirim Kang and Lisa Petrusky, that's a whole lot of technical quality in the middle of the park. You should not have a problem breaking teams down in the middle of the field, no matter what team. You should be able to impose your rhythm and kind of break through that area to then use either Whitaker or Sauvé to progress the ball when the pressure becomes too much. I didn't see that. I saw the number 10s drift out too wide. I saw the midfielders drift out too wide and to provide too much support. And I don't know if it was by intention. I don't know if it was a lack of faith in the system, but I didn't feel like they did what had made them so successful in the earlier phases of the season. So again, this was also after a lengthy break. They're going to have 4 games in a row now at Stade Boreal. So I hope that they can get some home wins and some reps to kind of rebuild that confidence. But right now, they're not playing at the level that they set earlier this season. And I get it because Toronto made your life difficult and they're a very athletic team and they ran you down for most of the game, but that shouldn't matter when you have this quality on the ball. And I didn't see that.
Yeah, well, that's not really an excuse either, because I mean, one of the things that we praised Robert Rossitoyu and his staff during the first few weeks of the season was their preparation. Roses, not physically, tactically, Roses FC seemed very prepared and much sharper than the other teams, including the first time that they played Toronto. They just seemed to be overwhelming how prepared they were tactically. This time around, I felt like Roses FC were chasing the game. They were really adapting to what Toronto gave them instead of really imposing their game. And that's something that surprised me because it looks like, as you mentioned, the lie is almost like a step back to what we've seen them progress in. And that's not good because if anything, they should be taking more steps forward, especially since a lot of the pieces are coming back from injury. So that's why, to me, if you ask me what this tie felt like, I'm not very happy about it because I'd rather see a win and them get back to their old form that we saw where they were tactically dominant.
Yep.
And now I don't feel that way. I feel like we took a step back the past 2 games, and I think they really, really need to bounce back heavily next game. I forgot who their next opponent is. But go ahead, Hattie. What do you think overall the game, and what was your thoughts on the tie?
Yeah, the tie was honestly a big surprise because, like, you look at the game and you watch the game, and we were second best most of the game. So, not most of the game, all the game. So, getting a point there is super important. At the same time, it's super important also because you're keeping Toronto 6 points behind you, which is, I think, very important too in the standings, even if it's very early in the season. At the same time, I think that we saw during that game, we realized that there is, and as Elias said, we realized that there is a big problem in the midfield. And even if you look at the first few games of the beginning of the season, it has always been the case. Yes, you had Chloe Minas that was really good, but we never really controlled the midfield in any of the games that we played. We were very strong on the wings with Pacheski, that's been having a great start of the season. We had very good, Megan Sauvé that did very well on the left. You had Tanya Boychuk that did very well when she was playing up front on the left also. But in the midfield, we're always wondering if we had the best pair in the midfield. And unfortunately, right now, where our wingers and the players on the sides are not doing as well as they were before, or other teams are really adapting to our style of play, that's where the midfield should come out and really control and contribute a lot more. And we're not seeing that. And I think this is a bit problematic for Robert Rositoyu. Does he need to change the pair of midfielders, or does he need to maybe give them another role? Does he need to mix things up in the midfield so that we can control the game in the midfield? But something needs to be done because in the middle of the pitch, we have a big problem right now.
Absolutely.
The
And
thing
we'll
is,
finish
without Felicia Roy, who replaces?
No,
You have
maybe
a
you
depth problem
need.
now.
Maybe you need. Yeah, maybe you don't need a double pivot. Maybe you
Yeah.
need to change this.
It could be very interesting what Robert Rossitoyu has up his sleeve. Now, we're just gonna finish this section with the top and flop of the game. My top of the game was Anna Karpenko because, again, I always compare it to what we saw last year, and I felt like this year is she still sometimes making mistakes? Absolutely. But I feel like she's become a lot more confident in her risk taking and the way she's defending, some of the saves that she's actually doing in the box. I think we've seen a massive change, and I think that she's performed really, really well. Um, as far as flop, I'm going to say that this time around, I felt like the subs didn't weren't really impactful in this game. You usually want to see some kind of difference, maybe insert energy into the game. I didn't feel like it was that. But actually, now that I think about it, I do have one player as a flop. Lucy Capadonna, because last year we praised Lucy Capadonna a lot for being, the cooler head in the back line, always being, sharp on defense. I feel like the past few games, and you guys will tell me, maybe you disagree with me, I feel like she's been caught out of place a lot of times, or maybe just like kind of chasing after the attacker instead of really being placed well like she used to last year. Is that fair, guys? Is that a fair criticism, or are you guys seeing like a different Lucy Capadonna?
I feel that the problem is a bit in the midfield because they're unfortunately she's being left alone most of the time, and because she doesn't have anybody to protect her up front. And
Yeah.
that I Elias was telling me what can we do in the midfield. Honestly, just until the injuries are back, maybe bring back Seto in the midfield, bring her back as a number 6, and just put Mbala on the right, or do whatever you want. But with the central defenders, you do have depth in the central defense. Just bring Seto if you don't have a choice, because right now the midfield is not working out. And I think this is causing a lot of pressure on Lucy Capadonna. And we saw it quite a few times where she's completely, you look at an offense and she has like 2 players on her running towards her, and the midfielders are nowhere to be seen.
Okay. So, how do you're topping your flop? I don't know if that was part of it, but go ahead.
A bit. It's very simple to say Lisa Pechersky, so I'm going to leave it to Elias. I loved,
Ouch.
I loved Elise Bennett. I really loved her game. I know she didn't score, but I think she was so important in keeping the ball up front, in directing the ball, in bringing back, the team, transitioning from defense to offense. I know she's not scoring and it's not good for a striker. I understand that, but she's doing all the right things. And I want to see more of that. And usually it's very rare to find a striker that does the right things and score. So right now, if she can continue on doing the right things, she will score because she's really good up front and she will get chances. For my flop, it's the first time that I will say this, but I need more from Charlotte Bilbao. I need a lot
I've been
more
saying
from
it.
her.
Yeah.
I need a lot more from her. You're the veteran. You're supposed to be the one that really holds everything together. And I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that combativeness. I'm not seeing that competitiveness. I'm not seeing that I'm not seeing the fire in her play. And
But did she lose a step, Harry?
maybe I'm not someone that you're not going to look at 5 games and say she lost a step. You need to look for a whole season. Maybe right now she's out of form and then she's going to come back better. It's possible. Sometimes you have ups and downs in a season. So I don't want to judge, but as of from the cameo that I got right now, I'm not happy that with what she's providing.
All right, Elias, top and flop, and then we'll move on to our next topic.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the assist, Hattie. But I mean, Lisa Petrusky again. We talked about how she's far and away, the player who's most likely to get called up to the national team for the Roses, if anyone does, and she proved it again. Right? Sometimes you don't have any solutions, and you need a moment of individual brilliance to secure a result, especially a result that you don't particularly deserve, and your best player delivers it. Right? Elise Bennett won the Player of the Month deservingly. She got 3 goals. She was banging goals for fun in the month of May. But Lisa Petrusky, for me, right now, is the player of the season for the Roses.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think right now she's also an MVP contender. So I think that
Yeah.
I'm I'm thrilled that there's two players on this team that are in this position. I mean, Tanya Boychuk as well has been missing minutes and missing games because of international duty, but she's also got 4 goals, right? So we're kind of spoiled right now in terms of attackers, but Lisa Petrsky is by far and away for me the most effective and important player on the team this year because she is doing everything, and like Andy said, she's playing all over the field too. Wherever Rob Rosatory needs her, yes, chef, I'm there, and she does a great shift. Um, in terms of of a player that I didn't love, I didn't have a player for me that stuck out as like, ooh, they had a bad game.
It can be a
But
position or
I am disappointed in Cheru
okay.
because
Oh, I didn't want to say Rim because I was like, Elias is gonna think that
I
I'm.
told you guys, like I will pull up the group chat. With the second
He's a
the
fan.
lineup dropped, I'm like, oh my god, she's playing in the 10. I was super excited. I just didn't think that she was involved enough.
No.
And we've seen it through games, right? She's very much a conduit and she's a facilitator and she makes everyone around her better. But sometimes she doesn't necessarily take the game by the scruff of the neck like it needs to. And in a game like this where virtually nothing is working and you're kind of, the whole team is kind of beating their head against the wall and it's not working, that's where the important players and the decision makers and the decisive players step up. And I didn't see that from Cherim in the first half. And again, she got subbed out at halftime. And I felt bad because she's been playing out of position all season practically. And this was her first chance in a more offensive capacity where she didn't really have to worry about the corner flag aspect of playing wingback. And I just don't feel like she left her mark on the game enough because maybe she just lacks that assertiveness. And I think games like this, where Lisa Petrsky has that mentality, that kind of almost like, if I have to do it myself, I'll do it myself. And she literally did. Chirim has the ability to. I just don't know if she has the mentality and that kind of ruthlessness to take a game by the neck and be like, I'm going to be the one that gets us back on the right track. So I don't have a flop, but I was a little disappointed in Chirim.
All right.
Rim is the flop of Elias. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. You're both on strike 2.5 now. I'm sick to my stomach now. This is
sorry. We said
unbelievable.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna close out that segment, and before we do so, right, a quick shout out to our partners over at Impact Essentials. If you're looking to upgrade your daily routine, this is the place to do it. Impact Essentials is a Montreal based premium grooming brand specializing in high end, all natural beard care with some absolutely incredible scent profiles. We're talking about coffee infused whiskey, tobacco and cognac, and more, much more. It honestly turns your morning routine into a full on ritual. And for those without beers, like Andy, don't worry. They've got a new line coming very, very soon. So make sure to follow their socials and stay tuned for the launch. Go show them some love at impactessentials.ca. And don't forget to use our promo code TBIR to save 15% off your order. Every purchase helps support our show, and we truly appreciate it. So I repeat, the promo code is TBIR for 15% off your next order.
So let's talk about quickly, guys, just quickly, because it's been a long time, but we do cover FC Super de Quebec, so we'll just do a quick take on it. FC Super de Quebec, since the month of May, has lost 3 games, has drawn 2, and has won 2 as well. One of them being the Canadian Championship. The last one coming in a complete collapse against Atletico Ottawa. Hadi, when we were at the panel, the game was going on, and we were watching the score. It was insane how they
Just
were
3-1.
up 3-1, and then they lost 5-3. And when you watch the actual game, it is a literal collapse of a team. Guys, is the honeymoon over for FC Super? Do we still have are not we do they still have that flexibility to say we're still new, we're still the new guys, we can still lose, or can we already criticize them for certain choices that are being made by Nick Razagi or some of the performances that the players are putting on the field? How do y'all start with you?
Honestly, we did talk a few times about that here on the Ball is Round. We questioned Nick Razagi's choices. We talked, Elias and I and yourself about the game in Forge, how, we didn't understand the starting 11. We did criticize them, but I think that right now we realize something. For me, this is how I see it. Technically, and when you look at the quality of the players that we have here in Quebec, we have very good players. Okay, that's not a problem at all. Okay, the problem that we have is that they're not used to a professional game. They're not used to the professional like day to day routine that you need to have. And losing from 3-1 to 5-3, this is exactly what it is. It's a professional collapse of a team that thought that they had it in the pocket and they didn't. So this is a big mentality change. There needs to be a big mentality change in the head of players, saying, "Hey guys,
And stuff.
you're not, yeah, you're not playing against, you know, League One Quebec teams anymore, where it's okay to have an off day. No, this is a professional game. This is something where you need to show up every minute, every second, every training. You need to push and push and push and push harder in order to get results. Yes, you won the first game in Pacific. Yes, you did very well, here in Quebec, and the Sepsum, and you got very close calls with Calgary and stuff like that. But this is not enough. Right now, you're playing the long game. This is the professional setting. You have so many games left, and right now you cannot take your foot off the pedal. It's not how it works in a professional day. It's a professional game. So this is what the coaching staff needs to work on. They need to make sure that the players are in the right mindset, and if they're not, then at that point, maybe increase the training. You have so many things that you can use, so many tools that you can use in order to increase, the intensity in training. And they need to do that because right now this is not acceptable. It's unacceptable. Losing a game like that is unacceptable. And what's even worse is that you're losing a game of that magnitude while leading 3-1 just before a break of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so damaging for morale. I don't know.
Also, a few selections, and we like to do 1+1 = 2 when doing the selections of the players, but there's certain things that are being questioned now, like why is this player all of a sudden benched? Why is this player all of a sudden playing 90 minutes? Like, Elias, what are your thoughts right now of FC Super? We heard what Hadi had to say about maybe the level of professionalism and all that. What are your thoughts after the last few performances of FC Super?
So we talked about this way back in the preview episode for the Super. It's, after a certain point, they're going to have to deal with the realities of a season, which is injuries, accumulation of yellow card suspension, or just straight up suspension if you look at Bielo and Abzi, and just the nitty gritty and the mental toll that a full professional season takes on you. And they've spoken at length, both, and players have come on this show and said, for a lot of people who it's their first professional season, they have to understand the whole marathon, not a sprint. It's a cliche for a reason because it's true. And I think now that they're getting into the middle part of this year, that the shine of a new season, a new club is starting to wear off, and the grind is starting to set in, that they're realizing it's a whole other world from the grind of League One or the grind of university, right? So I think that, this is a very necessary wake-up call, and a collapse this big could not have come at a better time where they have a break before a very big game coming up in less than a month, and a very real push for the playoffs that's going to start brewing. So if they were going to have it, I'm happy they had it now, so they could take a couple days and just decompress and understand the situation they're in. Not just the players, the coaches too, because I think right now we're also kind of starting to get a little bit. I feel like these lineups and the fact that we haven't seen the same starting 11 back to back in forever is also starting to reflect maybe a little bit of anxiety from the staff. Because if something's not working, they've won one of the last 5 games, so I think they're just starting to try new stuff to see if something's going to work. Stick with it, all right? You're being competitive and you're playing good football. Stick with it, and the good things will come. But right now, I just think across the board, we're starting to see maybe the lack of experience seep through on and off the field.
Yeah, and we're seeing also a very uneven, like certain games where the attack does really well and maybe the defense doesn't do so well. Another, maybe the offense isn't really performing, but the defense really, keeps the team in the game. But what we're seeing the past few games is all phases really not performing well together. And the same as you mentioned that last show, Elias, you said it's either going to be Mathis Chrétien at the top or it's going to be Sean Ray at the top. It's always an individual, and they do what they do. But then next to Mathis Chrétien, you have a Keyshawn Ferdinand that also needs to play well. The Charles that also needs to play well. Lloyd Quemi, a David Chouanière that needs to be better, right? So this is starting to become a problem. But they're not playing games for now. We're going to continue talking World Cup. And just to finish the show, we're going to go ahead and just finish up with some quick fire on the World Cup. Just to finish it up, because we started the show with that. So we're going to finish it with that. So, guys, just quick fire. I want you guys to give me your quick thoughts on it, okay? So, first question. What has been the most entertaining game so far? Elias, I'll start with you.
Netherlands, Japan by
Adi?
a million miles.
Yeah, I love the second half. The first half was a bit boring at one point, but I love Brazil, Morocco. I loved it.
I didn't like that game.
I really loved that game.
Brazil looks like shit, man.
They were great in the second half. I love the second half.
Brazil. I don't like this Brazil.
Yeah, it's
what happened to Jogo Bonito, man? Oh my god, it pisses me off.
I know.
You have Guimaraes and Casemiro in the midfield, and you have Fabinho coming off the bench. Where's ça fait pas rêver, man? What's happening?
No, ça fait pas rêver, but you know what? Everybody thought that Brazil was going to be outclassed by everybody. So,
you know what?
Watching Igor Thiago play makes me physically ill, man. I cannot watch that man play.
Yeah, I can't. Man, I was talking about this with a friend this morning, and I was like, "You have a Brentford player as no disrespect to Brentford, but as a starter for Brazil.
You have Endrick, who's playing out of his mind.
Oh yeah.
You left João Pedro at home, and you're playing.
Listen, but it was still a very good result for Brazil because Morocco is great. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to say my most entertaining game because you guys said yours. Mine was South Korea, Czechia. Because I love the way, man, the way South Korea, I'm honestly, guys, I was very, very surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be, but how technically advanced South Korea plays and how they just play such a beautiful brand of soccer that had Czechia going around in circles, even though Czechia is a very good team. And they're also much more physically built than the South Koreans, but it was such an entertaining game. Next one, biggest surprise. I'll say mine.
Go.
South Korea. I'll say it again. Yeah. They surprised me. They were my biggest surprise because I did not expect them to play. Hadi, biggest surprise.
Oh, Spain, Cap Verde. Like this was like the biggest.
But wait, we're talking game or team? Because I'm saying the
big
team.
Surprise. Surprise is a very
big
open-ended.
Surprise. Big surprise is Cap Verde.
Then I got another one. Biggest surprise.
Cap Verde. Sorry.
The referee body cam. Love that. That's my biggest surprise. Go ahead, Elias.
My big surprise is Paraguay. That game against the US was arguably one of the worst performances from a top 40 national team I've ever seen at a World Cup.
Honestly, I thought Curacao was better than Paraguay.
100%.
Yeah.
Paraguay was vile. They,
They really weren't good.
we could have a whole pod. Is rapid fire. We're not going to get into it that much. We could have a whole pod dedicated just how shit they were. It was
Yeah, they were really
horrifying. I
bad.
genuinely stopped watching. It was not. It was barely football. It was terrible. Them in South Africa, same thing. Horrible.
I didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Hadi, best team.
I love Japan. I just love them.
Mhm.
I love that team, and I think they're great. By the way, I bought a cap of Japan when I was in Toronto. It was 50% off. I bought it for $20. An
That's great
Adidas
value.
cap. I was like, yeah, of course I'm buying it. So yeah, Japan for me.
Elias, best team.
As of right now, right? We're talking as
Yeah,
of right now.
Of course.
I mean, as of right now, it's easy to say Germany, right? I'm not gonna because it's the easy answer. You win 7-1. It doesn't matter who you play against. I'm gonna say Morocco. They played Brazil off the pitch completely, except for one bit of genius from Vinny. They played Brazil off the pitch. They looked infinitely better than Brazil. I was very surprised. I was not surprised.
No,
but
not surprised. They were like semifinals last time.
I know, but that was a very different Morocco. Remember,
Yeah,
they were
but still.
defensively
Yeah, because-
excellent. This year, they controlled the ball, they controlled
Yeah.
the game, and they were, for me, it was the most impressive performance of anybody.
For me, the best team so far has been the U.S. I think they performed.
All
sure.
right,
I was sure. I was sure.
okay,
Okay, can you
that's
kick
it.
it?
I've seen it. Yeah, now.
I gotta do the quick fire.
Kick him out.
Anyways,
With-
worst team.
I can do it. Kick it
Wait,
out.
worst team. Now you guys choose. What's the worst team? Elias, go ahead.
I said Paraguay, but they're better than South Africa. South Africa, that was a despicable display of football.
Yeah, that was
Horrible.
It was
Paraguay, I
crazy.
think, are better than South Africa, just barely. But South Africa that was unwatchable shit, man. Especially for an opening game. That what a bad look you have for your footballing federation. Not good.
Hadi, worst team.
Just to change it up a bit, I would say Tunisia. Honestly, they weren't really good. Now, of course, Sweden is a very good team with like a partnership up front with Gyökeres and Isak that that's really amazing. But yeah, they weren't really good. By the way, they found a new coach. Hervé Renard is taking over.
Is he really?
Yeah. Hervé
Oh,
Renard is
that's
taking over.
fantastic.
Who?
so-
Where?
Hervé Renard is taking over the Tunisia
Classic.
coaching job.
But I'll say my worst team, and you guys are gonna be surprised because Elias said best
If you
team.
say,
I'm gonna
Canada,
say.
I'm kicking you out of the thing.
Oh no, Canada, of course, they're untouchable. Worst team, I'm gonna say is Germany, because yes, you're gonna say, oh, they won 7-1. They were because that's a team that next week, if they play against France or they play against some more competitive teams, they lose 5-0.
So 1 second, they're worse than Tunisia, South Africa, Paraguay.
For who they are and for what players they have, absolutely, they played terribly.
Okay,
They played horrible. They could not. It was
they
purely
played horrible in this first 7 goals.
purely individual success, not
Okay.
a team success. So when I'm gonna say worst team, I don't say individual talent. I say as a team. I saw Man U more than they never knew.
All their goals were like link up plays and
No.
really.
No. I'm not gonna say that. I think they are as a team. They are one of the worst teams right now. If they can play again. Yeah, I know you guys are surprised because I'm watching the game 90 minutes and I'm like, this is not the Germany I know, because I love their brand of football. I think they play excellent. They played the basics so well, and they just kind of, I feel like they've lost that over the time. It's not just this game. Over time, they've lost that. They are more about individual work and all that. And it's something that it's not just me talking about it. You can read about the articles that cover this team, the German national team and the German clubs, and it's lost. There's a lot that's been lost in that. So right now, they have a lot to prove in my book. All right? I see your faces.
Wow,
I love my choices.
That's definitely a take.
The worst team is the team that won 7-1. Okay,
yeah, I'm okay.
Move on.
Fine with it. Okay, so next one, best goal.
Man, that Egyptian goal, Ashur.
Oh yeah, what a hit.
Oh my god.
Beautiful.
No, but like the control first, like he
The
controlled the
first touch
first
to do all
touch.
of that in 2 touches, unbelievable.
Oh man, and you know the way he curled it. Oh my
God.
god! Like there's a few great goals that we saw.
Especially you do that against Thibaut Courtois.
Exactly.
That's
That's
not
the
that's
wow,
not some
man.
random
Oh
guy.
my god.
That's
Oh
yeah.
my god. Yeah, amazing, amazing.
Elias, go ahead.
Trying to like just think back of the goals.
How
The
about Cote
Qatari
d'Ivoire?
tying goal was a fantastic header.
Which the Qatar?
The
Yeah,
Qatari tying goal was an unbelievable header. Um,
there's the Swedish,
oh,
the two Sweden goals yesterday.
Amad Diallo's winner. I
Yeah,
love that.
From what
Across your
Cote
body, far
d'Ivoire, Cote
post.
d'Ivoire.
Yeah,
I just said that. Yeah.
beautiful.
You just said
Yeah.
That's
that.
oh, you did okay.
Well, my well my
That's such a
yeah.
difficult finish.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, given the
That's really impressive.
circumstances, right? Because it was very last minute. I mean, look,
Especially
guys,
at
my
90th minute, you're exhausted. You put that perfectly. Oh,
yeah,
that's impressive.
my wife was she's half Ecuadorian, and she was obviously rooting for Ecuador. And when she saw she had her
Damn.
eyes close to the phone, and she looked at, she was like, "Hmm." I was like, oh damn, that sucks. But given the
It was a good
circumstances,
game though. It was a
great.
really good game.
Last category, best player so far.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I'm gonna let anybody else answer first because I'm the one answering all the time.
I just
I
want to
don't have
avoid the
one. Honestly, it's
question.
too soon to me.
It's too
To have a
soon. We're talking
question.
as of right now, man. Like, give us a break. You can't choose a Germany player because they're the
I'm gonna
worst.
say Luc de Fougerolles.
You're gonna say Luc de Fougerolles?
No,
Come on. Okay, I will tell you mine. It's Gravenberch
oh,
from
he was so
Holland.
good. He was
Man,
unbelievable. Man.
2 assists. He controlled the midfield like no other. Uh, oh my god, he was so amazing in that game. So yeah, for me, that's the best player.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't have one. I don't have a best player so far.
That's okay. It's
No.
okay.
The Cape Verde goalie.
Elias?
There you go.
Who?
I don't even know his name, but the Cape Verde
Yeah,
goalie.
man. Man,
Starts with a V.
Vozinha, man.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Vozinha.
That's
Yeah,
true.
man, he's 40 years old, man. Did you look at? Did you
That's
look at
what I
his
love about the
career?
World Cup.
And
Some
here we
guy,
are, 36
some
years
career-
old, podcasting. What are we doing, guys?
some career footballer that's
I'm not
never
36.
really made any kind of waves on the international level, out of nowhere has the game of his life on the biggest stage. That's arguably the game that everyone wants to see the most because it's like everyone wants to see if Spain lives up to the hype. And this 40-year-old guy
Let's
puts
go.
on the game of his life. I love it, man. I
Man,
love it.
I love it too. I love it too. I was looking at his career and where he played, and he played in some okay clubs. Like he didn't play like in like really small clubs either, right? So I think he played in I'm just gonna go check. He played at first. Okay, at first he was playing in Moldova, in Zimbru Chisinau, but then he played in Portugal in Gil Vicente, and then he played
Okay.
in Cyprus in Limassol, and now he's playing in Portugal with Chavez. So
Okay.
like,
You know what? Hey, that's
yeah,
decent.
it's really
Yeah, I pulled
okay.
up his profile now, and he's not even a backup. He's
He's the main
a
one.
starter. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the main one. And at the same time, did you guys notice who was also in the Cap Verde team? They have
No.
Moreira.
Ryan Mendes. Ryan Mendes
Yeah.
was playing in Lille back then. I don't know if you guys remember. Like he's 36 now. He's like, wow, it's crazy, man. I didn't even
10
know
years
that he was
ago, he was
still
playing for
playing.
Lille.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even know he was playing. For me, he retired. So, but if you look at that team, man, they're all like over 30. Like
He played
most
for
of them.
Nottingham. He scored 20 goals for Le Havre
Yeah, he
15
was
years
great.
ago.
That's why he signed for Lille. He was great. And when he was at Le Havre, I wanted him at Marseille. Look at Angie.
You want everybody at Marseille, man.
Yeah, of course. It's gonna be yeah.
Anyway, that's gonna do it for episode 266. On that happy note, thank you everyone for tuning in, for watching, for discussing, for sharing your thoughts. It's always massively appreciated. As you all know, the podcast is free. The podcast will always be free. You can find it anywhere you want. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Twitter, Facebook Live. You can find it on Spotify after the fact, all that fun stuff. We can't do this without you. So even if it is free, We do have a Patreon. If you guys want to help contribute, it is always appreciated. We love you for it. Everyone who joined the Patreon, you are loved and appreciated. Even if you want to join for free, you can. You still get some goodies. You get to see early sneak previews on any interview that we have. You get to see some of the practice notes. You get to see Op Watch we do with CF Montreal, where we speak with media from opposing teams, and we get the scoop and all the dirty details on whoever CF Montreal is playing against. You get all that fun stuff, even if you subscribe for free. Anyway, that being said, next week we have an equally important episode. We've got Roses. Super have the week off. CF Montreal have the week off. But we also have Canada versus Qatar. It'll be a massive indicator about whether or not we see Canada in the round of 32, whether or not we see them continue their journey in this North American World Cup. But all that will happen next week on episode 267 of the Balls Round podcast. Take it easy, everybody.